Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Monarch Metamorphosis podcast. This is episode 5, and I'm super excited to have one of our West Hollywood members, as well as one of the co-founders of Arrae, which is an incredible supplement company designed for women, which is an area of the market that is sorely needed, and also a friend. So we're excited to have Miss Siffat Haider, the better half of the co-founding duo of Arrae. So sorry, Nish, if you're listening. But we're super excited to have you here and grateful that you not only do what you do with Arrae, but also that you're a part of our community. And I think one of the beautiful aspects of this podcast and the ecosystem that we've created is we are stocked full of incredible people from various different industries that all get to come together because the common thread that unites us all is health. And I've talked about it with our team plenty of times, like throughout human history, we did not have the technology we had. We did not have the communication ability. The thing that is consistent amongst every culture and every nation across the world is how do you take care of yourself? And
totally.
Everyone has different approaches to that, but the fundamental component of what makes us humans is that like we want to be able to be in a shape, form, and function, so to speak, that we can do what we came here to do, whatever that means. And for you guys, it's developing a supplement company that has taken over the world and targeted, to be honest, an area in health and wellness that is traditionally masculine, like everything.
Very.
Yeah, and like it's like such an obvious opportunity. So I was mentioning to you before we started recording, like literally 30 minutes before you got here, someone was like, hey, have you heard of Tone from Arrae? I was like, wouldn't you know? I'm about to interview Siff here in a half an hour. So for everyone at home who may not have heard about you, give us a little bit of background on the company. It's an incredible story, all things considered. I mean, I'll let you tell it, but like you basically were like, the pandemic is either going to make us or break us. And fortunately it made you guys. So, where did the idea come from? How did you guys get to where you are now?
So I actually don't even know if I've ever told you about my background with health and wellness, but essentially I had a very troubled and poor immune system my entire life. So all throughout high school, middle school, college, I was always the girl who would have to call in sick because there was something wrong. And then I'd go to the doctor, they'd give me antibiotics. And then I was constantly on this hamster wheel. Okay. So in my early 20s, I actually ended up fracturing a rib from a chronic cough.
No way.
Yeah, it was insane. I mean, that's not something that's supposed to happen to someone who's 23, right? Yeah. And I was sent home from work because I was in so much pain and went to the hospital. They did an x-ray. They saw that I had a fracture. And then I was at that point, kind of extremely frustrated. And I was like, okay, well, I was talking to the doctor. I was like, okay, well, what do I do to make sure that this doesn't happen again? Is there anything I can do? Is there anything I can take? And she was like, here's some codeine, go home. And there was there was not even a game plan. Forget any answers. Okay. I understand that maybe they didn't have answers. Maybe it was just a simple, my immune system was not good. And that was really what it was. But there was no game plan as to how to improve. So that point was when I was like, okay, I've been doing things this way my entire life. It's just not working. Let me look into holistic, natural lifestyle changes, food, all of the things that kind of go the herbs, minerals, vitamins. And that's how I got into health and wellness. And back then, all of this stuff that, we have access to Erewhon and health and wellness is cool now. Herbs, minerals, vitamins, everyone's talking about it. Back then, it was this weird, it was very totally. Granola. Yeah. It was not cool.
Yeah, I remember so I went to med school in Denver, Colorado, which for me was the epiphany that I needed. Obviously I was going to medical school, but same thing. I was coming from the Midwest, drinking culture, shitty eating culture,
awful,
late nights, terrible decisions. And then I got out to Denver and I was like, all right, there are people, to your point, very granola, but also remember going into health food stores and I was like, they all smell like like mothballs and your grandparents. And I'm like,
it was just so tragic.
Right. I was like, why does like being healthy have to be like so
like uncool?
Yeah. Like,
and like, you know, I before I founded Arrae, I've always been in fashion, right? And like I love branding. And so as I got into it, I noticed this like massive white space. And I would talk to Nish about it often, where I was like, you know, like I wish that I could create the supplement brand that was targeted and it would just do what it said it would in like simple ways, and it was good ingredients and also really beautiful. So like women would want to take it and not just run to the pharmacy every time something's wrong. And there's nothing wrong with going to the pharmacy if you actually need something serious, but it was like, oh, I have a stomach ache. Like, let me just go. And you don't have to do that, right? So I was like, okay, like we've seen this kind of revolution happen in the skincare industry. You go into Sephora as a consumer, you want something for your dark circles, no problem, easy to find. Acne, whatever your issue is, there's always something there. It's beautiful. You want to use it. And I remember in my mom's generation, it wasn't like that. It was just like very like sterile looking. So there's entire like transformation happened in the skincare industry. And I was like, why not supplements? And so that was really the thesis behind Arrae. And as you said, we launched in 2020. We didn't realize that, you know, it was like we were going into the pandemic, but the same month that we launched Arrae, COVID happened. And it's
nuts.
Like insane.
You know, we have so much synchronicity because we opened January of 2020. So like 2 months after we opened, the entire world shut down.
Insane.
Yeah. And I think the benefit for both of us is that taking care of yourself became essential.
Exactly.
And we fortunately, like where I got this idea, I was like, we have to approach health from a medical standpoint.
Totally.
Because it opens every door. That's how we survived. And so, you know, I'm interested to hear about like, you have a new business, and I'm pretty sure I can guess like how you guys exploded, but I'd love to hear like, what was that like? Because I'm assuming everyone was just like, shit, we feel terrible. Like, what can we do to help us?
Exactly. Yeah. So that's what happened. You know, everyone was at home eating the worst food they've ever had, like just like stress eating and like consuming the news, which was so tragic back then and so sensationalist. Everyone was scared. Everyone was anxious. Everyone was bloated.
Yeah.
And we had launched the brand with 2 products, Bloat and Calm. And it was like the stars aligned to like for us to be able to serve the world that needed these products. Like I remember it was like nurses and frontline workers who were buying Calm because we like had a discount on it. And like that's kind of how news spread. It was like people were eating so poorly. Bloat was helping them with their digestion. And I know that like when we say, oh, like bloat, right? It seems like trivial, but it's not, because when you don't feel well, like even if like, I mean, I think anyone who's listening can relate to this, where like, if you're having digestive distress, the amount of mental real estate it's taking up, you simply cannot show up to work or life or whatever it is you're doing and perform at your optimal, you know? And the same thing with like anxiety, like people were so anxious, and Calm has obviously like, that's what it's meant to do. It's meant to calm you down. So we thankfully, like there was such a natural need for it. And you know, as people started to try the product, they just started to share on social, and it just started to spread like wildfire. Like I will never forget, you know, when you start a business, it's like you're getting this like one sale every now and then. Yeah. And one day Nish and I are just like sitting and we're like, okay, you know, like what's happening in the news, like just confused like everyone else. It's like full lockdown. Yeah. And then all of a sudden we start getting all these sales, and we're like, where is this coming from? Like, I don't know what, like, how is this happening, right? New brand, like 2 weeks in. And then someone who followed me on Instagram sent me a screenshot of a live that was happening where there were 2 like health and wellness influencers. So Melissa Wood, Tepperberg, so Melissa Wood Health, and then Mona Vand. The two of them were doing a live together, and Melissa Wood started to go off about our bloat capsules. And so that was like initially like the big kind of influx of like people hearing about us, because it was like someone that people trusted in health and wellness. And then it was just this like flywheel where of course our customers were posting about us because they loved the product. So I think fundamentally, of course, you need a great product in order for a business to do well. But people were talking about it because they needed it. So yeah.
Crazy. How did you guys choose like Bloat and Calm? I understand Calm because like anxiety. I'm amazed at how many people come in and they're being treated pharmaceutically for anxiety. Like it's
It's
unbelievable.
an overprescription
And
epidemic.
right. And, you know, I'm 37. I can't think of a single kid I grew up with that was on like an antidepressant. Maybe a couple kids on like Ritalin in school. And you're like, those people like really have a hard time like focusing in. It's everyone now. So like
Everyone.
I get the calm part. Everyone has trouble sleeping, which is a, you know, relatively straightforward issue if they just focus on sleep hygiene, which is out of scope for this podcast. But bloat is an interesting one. So how did you guys decide on all the possible things that you guys could have done, like calm and bloat? More bloat than anything.
So it's funny because bloat is still today like our number one. Okay. Like it's kind of what we are known for as a brand. Essentially, what I started to notice anytime, and this was for years, I would notice this pattern whereby anytime I would go out with my friends, whether it was like for a meal or like, you know, we're just chit chatting, there would be not one single conversation that we'd have where someone wouldn't bring up how bloated they were. It was just every single conversation. And
male conversations and female conversations
very different.
Are
very
clearly different.
But I also have a thesis that men do get bloated, but they don't know what that means.
Totally.
You know what I mean? So like
Totally.
I like, so it's so funny. I remember when we were like, obviously like before we released the product, we were going through different iterations, right? So when we're formulating, we get the final product that we actually ended up using. And I back then had like sensitivity to gluten. So anytime I'd eat pasta, I was like in like serious pain. So this is like 2018, 2019, right? And I remember Nish and I had gone out for dinner and we came home and I was like extremely bloated, like just so uncomfortable. And I was like, okay, well now's the right time to try this like version that we have to see if it works. And I had it, and 20 minutes later, I felt so good that I forgot that I was uncomfortable to begin with. And then I was like, oh my God, that worked. Because otherwise I'd just be on the couch like this, like doubled over in pain. And then Nish goes, oh wait, this is how I'm supposed to feel. So that's why I'm like, I just don't think men understand that there's something, the body cues are perhaps not there.
I can tell you without reservation, I have never once said in my life, man, I don't feel great. I feel bloated. 0 times has that come out of my mouth. So you were probably correct. I'm sure I have been. Yeah. I mean, so for people that aren't in the LA area, this is kind of a joke between us, but also not necessarily a joke. We have competing smoothies at a local restaurant called Dialogue, and you know, ours,
we are kicking your ass.
You guys are killing us, kind of. But yeah, I just like when it makes total sense. But when the owner of Dialogue's like, yeah, we're like this anti-bloat smoothie is crushing. I'm like, I don't get it, but like clearly, again, the reason why your product does so well is because half the world is living, you know, and experiencing things that I have no concept of. And there's a, you know, idiom in the medical world, which is like, if women ran hospitals and medicine, like we would have solved twice as many problems, because we've just conveniently ignored like half the population. We just assume it's, you know, how men feel. So it's an incredible story from a supplement standpoint, right? So, you know, with Monarch and everything that we do, my personal belief is supplements are meant to supplement your lifestyle.
100%. I always say that.
We over supplement.
I agree.
Part of the reason I find that most people, and I'm super interested in like your journey with this, struggle with supplementation is the quality control, and what goes into making a supplement is wildly variable, poorly regulated, to be generous. And so as someone who has created something, one that works, but also that has scaled as large as it has, like that's the second order question that most people don't realize with healthy anything, right? Like I've consulted and advised for groups that are making high quality, you know, CPG, like those donuts that I gave to you, right?
Yeah,
like
they're so good.
So good. Drum roll snacks, just, you know, no affiliation, but they're incredible. they had a hard time scaling because like it's hard to find high quality ingredients at scale, which I don't think people appreciate. So how did you guys go about, one, ensuring that the quality was going to be maintained, but also like as you started to see that groundswell, that compounded effect of like, you know, power law, everyone's talking about it. How did you guys navigate the fact that like you have a good intention, but at the end of the day, like the people that are producing, like it's hard to know exactly what's happening behind the curtain. So how did you guys scale that aspect?
So a couple of things. Number one, we're a Canadian brand. So we
the 51st American state, some people are talking about. Too soon.
Too soon.
Yeah.
But with Canada, we're like highly regulated, even the supplement sphere.
Yeah.
So we, before we release a product, have to get an NPN, natural product number, which is regulated by Health Canada. So we can't be doing things like making claims, using ingredients, like it's like all regulated. So it's funny because coming into the US, it's been like, what? Like there's nothing. But what we have done, and I think I'm like very proud that we're a Canadian company because we have to hold ourselves to very high standards because of the rules of Canada. So that's kind of where we started. In terms of what you're asking regarding, ensuring high quality and all of that, we do everything in-house. So we aren't going to a manufacturer being like, you source these ingredients or like we want to white label a formula. That's not what we're doing. We're developing the formula and we directly, our R&D team is the one that manages everything with the supply chain. So they're the ones who are sourcing each of the ingredients. We tour facilities where if it's like a new ingredient, for example, which has been like lab developed, because there's like a lot of different science and just technology around different ingredient and like bioavailability, for example, we're touring all of that. And honestly, Ryan, sometimes there's shortages. And so when we sell out and we aren't able to stock as quickly as we would like, it's because we're not compromising on the quality of ingredient that we're using. We're just like refused to compromise. So, at one point I remember we were sold out of bloat for a minute. And it was because there was the farm that we get like source like the slippery elm from. There was a shortage, like supply chain issue there. And so we kind of had to wait for that to be resolved in order for us to continue to produce. So these things happen. But our philosophy is that if we can't be the best at it and if we can't produce something that's like really high quality, we're not going to do it. And the other thing I will say is that when you cut corners and you just do it anyway, right? I think it shows in the long term, right? People are not going to come back for that product because they're going to see that there's something different or it doesn't work for them. And overall, then when you look at the health of the business, your returning customer rate is garbage. And so that makes your business like a bad business because what you're just going to continue to just get new customers with marketing. It's not going to be profitable that way. So there's a lot of downstream effects to cutting corners, which is something that we've just refused to do.
That's interesting. Do you have any data on like how long someone will be a customer with Arrae? Because I'm super interested with, Monarch in particular. Our average member stays around 2 years, which is, basically consistent with anything in our world. Like everyone changes jobs, locations every 2 or 3 years. So I'm proud that people are willing to invest in themselves, because our price points are considerably higher than from supplements. But even with supplements, one of the things that I've seen, and we did like intuitively I audibled off of this because we went through, there's companies out there where you can white label, call it Dr. Green's, whatever. And I just felt like I was like a snake. I was like a car salesman. And I was like, hey, you need an omega product to help with your cholesterol. You should take Dr. Green's heart. I was like, it's weird that I'm giving you this and it has my name all over it. And what I found is most people were like, well, I see this on Amazon and it's $20 cheaper. Like, is this as good? And I have no idea. So I say all that. It's like, what is the average lifetime of an Arrae consumer? Like you could say once they start buying, it's forever.
It's like So we look at cohort retention basically, and I think our 16-month retention, which is like absurdly high for our space, like typically there's a drop off within like 2 to 3 months, but even our 16-month retention is something like 65%, which is that's outrageous. Yeah. That's like it's like an unheard of thing in our industry. So we're really proud of our retention numbers, and I think that like just the retention itself speaks volumes about the quality of product. Yeah. So yeah, like that's kind of where we sit.
And again, like everything that you're producing, and I'm interested to hear your thoughts on my next question. Mm-hmm. Everyone has anxiety. Apparently everyone's bloated.
Yes, everyone is bloated.
Which I'm learning. Where else are you guys going in terms of product development? And I'm trying to lead you into an area that I'm interested in, because I think pretty much in terms of supplementation, the only 3 things that people should take probably for the rest of their life: vitamin D, we don't get enough sunlight; protein, diets are terrible; and the other one is like the hottest thing on the planet right now, creatine, which has been around forever, creatine, right? I've been on creatine for ages.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, like, again, you guys are so genius. It blows my mind, because all the creatine has been very much like masculine, CrossFit, bro, correct, gains. So tell me about Tone.
So Ryan, what's funny is that yesterday when we launched Tone, we sent out an email, and that email was written by myself. And in it, I credit you for getting me on creatine. So
what?
Yes. I said that
unbelievable. Can I get that framed and I'll put that up in my office?
I mean, honestly, I didn't want to say that my gym was Monarch, because I was like, if I say it, then I'm like scared of like
helps us.
But okay, fine, I'll do it. But you got me on creatine. Okay. Yeah. So my brother, just for some context, he got into weightlifting when he was like maybe 15 years old. Okay. And since he turned like 22, I have heard him talk about creatine, and it always freaked me out. Okay, because my brother's like a big guy, right? Like he's been strength training for like his entire life.
Bigger than Nish or smaller than Nish?
Bigger for sure. Smarter, maybe.
Got it.
They have to battle it out.
Yeah.
But he's been talking about creatine forever, and he was like, "You have to start taking it," and I was like, "This is for guys, like this is not for me." And then as I started to get into health and wellness, I started to hear like, you know, credible, smart women and men in health talk about the benefits for women. Yeah. Then I joined Monarch last year, and creatine was like the fundamental thing that you told me: increase your protein, take vitamin D, and of course there was some stuff for my thalassemia, and then creatine. Yeah. Those were the 3. And I remember buying creatine, and I started to take it, and I was getting regular with it, but there would be so many days where I'd just forget, because I'd have to put it into my smoothie. Yeah. Or I couldn't put it into water. I think it's just absolutely foul.
I dry scoop it. I just go straight.
That's hardcore.
Straight to the brain.
You see, this is like,
I know.
It's a boy thing.
I'm a stereotype.
You know, but for the girlies, they don't want to do that, right?
Definitely not.
That was one thing. And I remember constantly, like, because I started to see changes in my own body. I was able to build muscle a little bit easier. Like, just I think my recovery was so much better. And I just kind of became a fan. And I started to tell all my friends about it, even though like the powder thing was like a big pain point for me, but I was like doing my best with what I had. Yeah. So I kept telling my friends about it, and my friends were taking it, and then they were like, "Oh, but it like really bloats me," or "Isn't it gonna make me bulky?" So these were the 2 things. Okay.
Yeah.
So we were like, how do we correct for all 3 of these issues? Okay. The powder issue, the bulk, the bloat. Okay. So we created our new formula Tone, which launched yesterday. And essentially it's creatine in a gummy format. And we combined it with a postbiotic. It's like a clinically studied postbiotic. It's called Symbiotics, and helps with body composition, you know, like fat loss and all of that.
Fiber?
It's like a form of fiber, and so it's excellent. We like it. It's a high quality ingredient. So that, and then it has obviously creatine 5 grams, and then ginger root, and that helps with the digestion portion of things. So we after 1 month of me taking creatine, I was like on our R&D teams, like just on their case being like, we have to do a creatine that like solves for these issues for women. It took us 50 plus iterations.
Interesting.
So you know what happens? So when creatine, typically if it's in gummy format, it's really difficult to keep it active because sometimes it can then become creatinine.
Yeah.
And so a lot of products on the market that people see on Amazon and such, a lot of them have like kind of degraded into creatinine.
Yeah.
And there have been studies showing which ones are like good and which ones aren't. And so it was really difficult to create this product because, you know, we wanted it to be really high quality. We wanted it to be like super, super negligible sugar content, taste really good, but still have the 5 gram like gold standard dose of creatine. Like now, you know, if people want to take 3, they can dose the gummies however they want. But yeah, like we launched it yesterday. And what's really interesting is so far, it's actually the strongest launch we've had for a product.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Which shows that there's clearly a need for this.
Yeah.
Women are interested in it.
Totally.
And so, you know.
We are in this age where I saw an article where, you know, the general consensus was women the pendulum has swung back from, you know, overly curvy, clearly augmented, not like Kardashian style for lack of a better term, to fit. Like
agree.
Women, like, you know, they want to look healthy. And
exactly.
So, yeah, what's your guys' plan in terms of the educational aspect so that, you know, you can help combat more than just like FAQs, which is like, you know, if you want to be, you know, in Pilates or yoga and, you know, be doing that for the rest of your life, it's not even just about weightlifting. Like
it's everything.
Creatine is everything. So like, how are you guys going to approach the education to be like, this is not for CrossFit athletes?
Exactly. So that's that. So the
and
reason.
When do I need to film some stuff for you?
I mean, ASAP. I'm bringing you a bottle like tomorrow.
Thank you.
But one of the ways that we did it right away is with our campaign. So we shot it with 2 major supermodels, Jasmine Tookes and Elsa Hosk. And the reason we did that was because I think typically when women think of creatine, you may think of someone who's like just, you know, like a CrossFit type person. And by the way, like that's
do they
great
take the
well.
product for?
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
And so there's that, you know, like stereotype, which by the way, like I think CrossFit athletes are incredible, right?
Great athletes.
My thing is that everyone can take this. And so it's interesting because I was talking to one of my friends who's like a Pilates instructor. She has like an incredible platform, Bryony, and she was one of the people to taste test creatine, like the version that we took live. And she was like, I keep telling people the importance of taking creatine. And I feel like the girls in Pilates, like they're scared. And so that was really the audience that we wanted to capture, because women who are crossfitting and strength training, they may have already heard of the benefits and they may already be bought in. Maybe they want a different format, which we're there for them for, like maybe it bloats them, where again, we solve for that. But it's the girl who's going to Pilates or yoga or like any of these that think that, oh, this is not for me. Not true, because it's for everyone. It's going to keep you healthy and fit and strong, and it's not going to make
great for your brain.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I feel like people aren't even talking about the cognitive benefits. Like it is
super important.
It's super, super important. And I think we're just going to continue to see more and more studies about the benefits of creatine, because I can't even believe the amount of changes that have happened in this space in like the last like 5 years.
Yeah.
Like when my brother started to talk to me about creatine, I was like, this is going to bald me.
Yeah.
Like I was like, and there were so many myths around it.
Totally.
So, I mean, it's really fascinating. I'm excited to see the progress in this space. And in terms of the education, like I think first our customers will see the benefits themselves, and our customers are like wide ranging. I'm going to gift it to like all of my friends who are like Pilates, yoga, like all of these different types of like athletes, I would call them as well.
Yeah.
And I'm excited for this revolution to happen, because it's about damn time.
The way that I like to talk about it is, you know, health is a symphony, right? Every piece of our health system, our body, like it's all working together, right? No different than flutes listening to violins, like it all has to work together. And if anything is out of tune, right, you get dissonance, which is disease. And I do think we are moving back towards this idea of like a symphony of simple health interventions, which is just like, I promise you, and that's what I've told you numerous times, I told Nish, everyone who comes to Monarch, this does not need to be that difficult. The difficult part is showing up every day.
Yes.
And showing up not necessarily in our physical space, but showing up at home when you're like, do I make this decision or that decision? Do I stay up super late even though I know it's going to disrupt my next few days? Like it's a symphony of decisions that are relatively simple that just need to be made consistently. And one of those is 5 grams of creatine, like every day.
Yeah.
And I think it's daunting for some people. I got to do this the rest of my life. Like, yeah, but like you're also going to sleep every day the rest of your life.
Yes,
and you're
correct.
going to, like you're going to do all these other things. So like just make it as simple as possible so you don't even think about it, and then it becomes routine. And that's where I think you guys have nailed it. And obviously I'll taste it myself and give you my feedback. But for me, like if that means I go Arrae tone gummies and I travel with them, because I have gotten pulled out of the TSA line when I have my creatine. And I was in LaGuardia and they legitimately called the bomb squad because they're like, this powder. I was like, guys, it's just creatine. Fortunately, the police officer responding like clearly looked like he works out, and he saw his creatine. He's like, all right, like I see what's happening here. But even for me, like I'm not opposed. Like if you guys have great product, which I believe you do, like that makes my life so much easier being able to just like carry a package with me and just, hold on to it and go.
Yeah, that's the thing. And honestly, like I'm not saying that our product is for everyone. And if it's not for you, that's okay. But like what you're saying is like exactly what we want to do. We want to make it easy for people.
Totally.
And so, if it is by like, iterating on a format, obviously like improving a formula, we'll do all of that. But even things like for me, if something is beautiful, I'll remember to take it. Yeah. And so like skincare, I'll remember to apply it. It's the same kind of thing for supplements too. So we got to get you this because you can't be pulled out of the TSA line again. That's crazy.
Yeah. It's, every time I go through TSA, I'm just like, please God, don't pull my bag. Like it's just creatine. We've talked a lot about Arrae, but you are a human being as well. And you've gone through, when I first met you, I don't think you could do a push-up.
No, I could not. And it was one of my goals when I was at Monarch.
From a health standpoint, as an entrepreneur, what are the areas that you're working on right now that matter to you? Because ultimately, like, I do believe that founders of companies, like the physical embodiment of who they are bleeds into the company. Sure. So if it matters for you, it's going to matter for your company. What are some of those things that you're working on right now?
So I think overall, Ryan, it's just continuing to show up as the healthiest person that I can be. Because the thing is, the reason I put in the work that I do is so that I continue to show up feeling my best, and I can continue to show up as a good leader that way, right? Because I remember, year one of the business where I was like, oh, like who has time for health, you know? And I was just running myself to the ground. And then I had an accident. And at that point, it was like a year and a half into the business where I was like, what am I even doing all this for if I don't have my health in check? Like if I don't have this, like what is all this for, right? So for me, getting to the gym, like I come in 4 to 5 days a week, like at least. Like I'm always there. And the reason I come in, yes, like of course there's physical benefits, but the mental health benefits that I get is incredible. And also as a founder, I'm so busy that like coming in and having access to a coach when I want to use a coach is like, it just changes the game. Yeah. It's like you're like brain off, you're doing what you have to do. Totally. And then you see the results, you feel the results. And I have never in my life come into Monarch, even on the days where I feel like garbage coming in, I never leave being like, damn, why'd I do that? Yeah. It's always like a thank God I came. That was like the lifeline that I needed today.
Totally. That's the beauty of exercise. That's the beauty of movement. I think people, when they look at us, just from my standpoint, everyone's like, oh, it's a gym. We're like, it's way more than that.
Way more than a gym.
But movement is absolutely necessary every single day. So yes, that is a large portion of what we do. And that's, again, if you could have figured this out on your own, you wouldn't need us. Mm-hmm. But the beauty is like, if I could formulate my own supplements on my own, I wouldn't need you. But we're all meant to work together. Totally. And so like, you being able to do what you do at a super high level, me and us being able to do that, it only helps everyone else because it's a synergy that's going to make, increasingly more positive ripples throughout society.
Yeah.
So I'm super grateful that you found us.
Yeah. Also, just speaking of the push-up thing, I could not, in fact, I've never in my life been able to do a push-up until I started here because I've had breast reduction and still, because I've been top heavy my whole life, has been so hard. But like, I'm so proud of the fact that I was able to do that. In terms of like specific goals, I'm now on the way to a pull-up.
Nice.
Gotta get there.
You're gonna get there. Yeah. You can. So we have. First of all, you'll be able to do it. But it's funny, like we have so many members, women especially, are like, I just want to do one pull up. I didn't realize this was, I didn't realize this was like such a thing. I ask everyone this because I'm super interested. And I think it's something that I don't know if we put a lot of thought into. But if you could look back on your life down the road and say, this was the impact that I hope to have on this planet, like what does that look like?
Ooh, big question. So I think everything that I have done in my life and everything I hope to do is with the goal of helping women feel like their best selves, right? Like whether it's to help them with their confidence or helping them with the smallest thing to feel better on a day-to-day basis, or like, I mean, Arrae was born out of that, right? Yeah. But everything that I've done in my life has been with that goal. Like my podcast, I want to bring people information so that they can like hopefully get closer to whatever dreams that they have, right? Yeah. And so if I have like, if I can leave a mark on the world, I would say if I can improve even like one woman's life by like 1%, I feel like I've accomplished something huge.
I'm in alignment with you. I think when we talk about health, everyone assumes it's just how people look. And I think we've done a disservice to appreciating that, like, maybe, our patient, our shared individual is a executive and she just doesn't want to feel like shit when she's going in and presenting in front of the board. So if that means exercise helps, great. If that means reducing bloat, calm, whatever else you guys come up with in your brilliant think tank, like that's health too. And I think
100%.
that, hopefully we don't lose sight of that. I definitely won't. I know you won't. So I'm super grateful that our paths have crossed. I don't believe the universe makes any mistakes. So we were clearly meant to be in this moment. For everyone who's listening, like if you haven't gotten any Arrae products, they're incredible, and they have a better smoothie than we do, so like it's all good. If you're
part of the podcast.
if you're at Dialogue, any of the Dialogue locations in LA, thank you for taking the time. I know you're super busy. Also, much rather speak to you than Nish. No offense, Nish.
I know I'm the fun one.
You're the fun one, and I look forward to seeing what else you guys create and contributing to the ability for you to do that because you're taking care of yourself. So
thank you so much, Ryan.
Thank you for being here. Fun. And maybe someday you'll invite me on your podcast. It's all good.
No, I've already told you when the new location opens, listen, you guys better come over and listen to Ryan on my podcast. I'm going to grill him with some questions.
I'm a way different guest than I am a host. So
really?
Yeah. I've got multiple sides of my personality. I only let a little bit show.
I'm going to get a lot out of you. People are going to see the real Ryan.
Oh boy. That's why I'm in therapy. Okay, cool. Well, that's a good place to end it. Thank you for being here. And thank you guys for listening.